Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the n8n extension for Chrome and Edge browsers. After installing this extension, you'll see a menu that looks like this. Here, you can see all the extension settings, which I'll explain in more detail now and later on. After installation, you'll need to enter an API key for one of the three neural networks. You have four options to choose from: ChatGPT, Anthropic Claude 4, Grok 3 Beta via the Open Router service. You select the neural network that suits you, enter the API key, test it, and then a button labeled Activate will appear here. After that, the extension will be active in your workflow. You'll see a chat button appear on the right, which you can use to ask questions to the selected neural network about your workflow, as well as generate ready-made diagrams. This extension also adds new commands to the context menu, which I'll explain in more detail now. So, the first command is called generate prompt. For example, let's take the AI agent node. Here is a field to specify the front end. And let's say we don't want to write out the whole long text with all the information about what we want to get. We can just specify a short task. I've already prepared one. It looks like this. And after that, I carefully open the n8n master context menu and then select generate prompt. After that, a prompt is subsequently generated for the AI agent. And as you can see, our prompt is right here, ready with a comprehensive, highly detailed, and thoroughly descriptive explanation for the Flux image generator. The next command is called optimize prompt. To use it, you also need to open the n8n master context menu and select optimize prompt. If we feel that this prompt is too long, too big, and will use up a lot of tokens, we can choose optimize, and then only the most important parts will remain, just the essence, without any unnecessary instructions. This way, we optimize our requests and reduce token costs every time we call the AI agent. Let's move on. The next feature is called generate code. For example, right now I'll call up these nodes and select the code node, where I need to write a specific piece of code. As you can see, you can read the instructions here. So I want to calculate the average and I don't want to mess around with the code myself. For this, I just wrote out my task. Now I open the context menu and select Generate Code. And as you can see, it wrote fully functional code. It took our parameters, calculated the average, and returned a JSON with comments so it's clear how everything works. Let's test it to see if everything works correctly. Well, as you can see, everything worked. It did the calculation, and we didn't have to write a single line of code. Next, now let's test the Generate JSON feature. For this, we'll use the Webhook node. As you know, this node accepts certain test data. This is used when you're testing the retrieval of information from other applications. To start, you click the Listen for Test Event button, receive some test data, and then work with it. To reduce the steps needed to get test data, we can simply generate it ourselves for various popular services, such as Telegram, Slack, Stripe, and so on, for example. For this, all we need to do is specify the instruction, the task, what kind of JSON we need. For example, I'll take a task to generate a request from Telegram with a text message. And now I select the context menu option Generate JSON. And as you can see, it gave us a completely valid, working JSON, which we can save and then use this data when testing our workflow. Now we can save the structure, give it a name, for example, Telegram text, and use it in the future for later use in the future. So now, for example, I need to test how my scheme will work with voice, that is, with the audio features, and more specifically, with voice messages that are sent from the Telegram app to make sure everything is functioning as expected. I specify the appropriate instruction, and now I open the context menu. Generate JSON. We wait for a little while. And now we have a JSON with the structure for a voice message. We also save it and then name it Telegram Voice, and now it appears in my list of available options. And now, at any time, I can simply select the specific data structure that I need in order to continue working with it, testing, and debugging my scheme. This makes the entire process of debugging and refining the workflow much easier overall. Let's move on. The next feature is Explain Code. For example, in the Code node where I already have a specific script written, I want to find out what this node does, this code. To do this, I click and select Explain Code in the context menu. Done. It carefully analyzed the code and then provided a detailed description for each individual line. What exactly is being done here? So, if you're not very familiar with scripting or coding in general, you can actually use this helpful feature to gradually learn and understand the language step by step. I can also just select a specific part of the code, highlight it, open the context menu, and ask it to explain. Sometimes this process can take different amounts of time depending on various factors. Okay, now it's done. It has highlighted this line and basically explains it almost letter by letter, showing you exactly what's happening here, why it's happening, and for what specific purpose. Now, as a result, you have more data, more information about the code you're working with. That's what concerns the context menu commands. Next, let's move on directly to the chat functions. Let's clear it for now. And let's say I want to find out in more detail what exactly this node does. I move my mouse pointer over to the node that I want to analyze, making sure it is the correct one. Once I have confirmed my selection, I click on the node to highlight it. After that, I ask, what does it do? You can also ask like this, what does this node do? And here it gave us an answer, as we can clearly see. And in fact, it actually describes it for us. It even took the internal contents, showing that there's a request to Google, which method is used, configurations, and so on and so forth. If you have any questions about a specific node, you can ask like this. You can also select several nodes and ask in the same way what these nodes do. That's regarding analysis. Now let's directly test generating a workflow from a text description. To do this, we'll enter a command in the chat that starts with the words "create workflow with." Then we specify which functions or which nodes we want to be included in our workflow. After that, we send the command and the bot searches among the available templates. And as we can see, it found a ready-made scheme that we just need to simply copy and paste into our project. Click the Copy Code button, press Ctrl+V. And as you can see, our scheme is already ready. He downloaded it because this extension already has about 300 ready-made templates for various tasks built in, and it found one based on your description. So all that's left is to just copy and paste. Then you just need to set up the configurations, enter your credentials, and you have a fully functional scheme that you can continue working with. That's all regarding workflow generation. Next, let's move on to the premium features. In the extension settings, there are several options that become available after you purchase a subscription. By default, all these settings are locked. The first setting is called autosave. Once you enable it, autosave will be activated after every update. As you can see, it has been saved. A notification appeared here, and the Save button became inactive. Once again. It saved again. So this way, you'll never lose important changes if something suddenly happens. Second, the second option. I'll show the process of autopin stoppy and also autopin II using this particular scheme as an example. Now I'll go ahead and unpin it, and then I'll click on the Test Workflow button. And as you may have noticed, these nodes were automatically pinned. That means the received data was saved, and in the future, if we run the workflow again, there won't be any new requests. This way, we save money when interacting with external APIs, as well as, for example, with some paid API services. You can test the same thing when I run test workflow unpin and test. And as you can see, the data was automatically pinned. The same thing will happen with this node. After each successful execution, auto-pinning will occur. This significantly saves time and money when you test your workflow from the very beginning using the Test Workflow button. The next feature is called Show Templates. It displays ready-made templates. This option enables the display of this button, and when you click it, the entire list of available templates appears, including their names and descriptions. As you can see, there are currently 283 of them. As templates are updated, there may be more of them. So we can select or search for a template, for example, something related to YouTube. And click Copy, after which the controller. And we can see a ready-made template for a specific task, which we can use in our work or as an example. The next feature is called Enable History. If you have n8n installed on your own server without an enterprise license, then this button is inactive by default. As you can see, I can't click on it. I don't have access to the change history of my workflow. So every time I save, I don't have access to previous versions. This option fixes that. And now the workflow history becomes active for me. At any time, I can access this history, copy from it, paste it, compare it with the current version if something breaks, and make the necessary corrections. The history is limited to 100 entries, which is enough for everyday tasks. For this function to work, you'll need to set up the internal API from n8n, which can be found in the settings under the API tab for clarity. Here, you'll need to create a new API, give it a name, select no expiration, leave the default settings, save it, get the key, enter it here in the settings, and save. Test it beforehand. And as you can see here, the number of cached workflows is displayed. In my case, it's 4. This is what the extension looks like. It really makes working with n8n much more comfortable, saves a lot of time, and lets you focus solely on your workflow without needing to switch anywhere else, like to a separate ChatGPT window. You can do everything within a single window. So go ahead and use it. Thank you for your attention. Bye.